early Premier League predictions on the 16th. The biggest competition in leagues is back, and we had to do our predictions. Here with my great friend Breton. How are you doing?
I'm getting revved up, man. I'm doing really well, and I'm so excited to dive into this because even though the transfer window is not even halfway done, I feel like we can make some pretty good, solid assumptions about how this Premier League season is going to go down. And like the first thing I just need to ask, and we can save it for the end, is how ridiculous is it, Alex, that we are even contemplating the possibility of a five-peat? Of a five-peat. How ridiculous is it? Like, racking my brain throughout all of this, every fiber of my being just wants to say there's no way City can do it. No way City can do it. And then it's like, they've earned some respect, eh? But listen, 20 teams, we got new teams, we got new incomings, new outgoings. I'm excited to get into it. So where do you want to start?
Very well said, Breton, because this is a fact. Anything can change with transfers, okay? Until the end of this month, a team that we say relegated can be a team that then mid-table is a definite possibility. So that's why we're stating early predictions, people. So, yes, we're about to go with the relegation spots, 20th, 19th, and 18th. I'm going to keep it simple. I believe the teams that are going to be relegated in the Premier League, in my early predictions, I have Ipswich, back-to-back promotions. You get to a time that you face real challenge and you can't face it. And I see no signings that make me back them not to be relegated. I go with Southampton. I think they're an inexperienced team with the majority of the players. Lallana will start at 36. This is one of your star players. This is a problem in my opinion. And my 17th is I had problems deciding between 18th and 17th. But I'm going to pick Leicester City. I'm going to pick Leicester City to be relegated in the Premier League. Steve Cooper is not a replacement at the same level as Enzo Maresca. Kieran Dewsbury-Hall was the best midfielder last season. I see no replacements, no transfers. Fatawu, good talents, but Jamie Vardy will be 38 in January. You need better solutions when you're in the biggest league in the world. And I see a Nottingham Forest signing a Jota Silva and being linked to Santiago Gimenez. That's more ambitious than anything I've seen from Leicester. So I put Leicester, Ipswich, and Southampton being relegated in my predictions.
So no love for the newly promoted, huh? No love for the newly promoted. They are up, they are down. I mean, it's a little bit like last season, right? Burnley, Sheffield United, and Luton Town. Exactly. And I already missed the Hatters. In the Premier League. I'll be honest. But I'm going to have a little more respect here, Alex, because sometimes unfamiliarity breeds, opportunity. And I believe that the biggest thing for Ipswich Town is the fact that they have held on to Kieran McKenna. We need to remember that Kieran McKenna was wanted by Chelsea, was wanted by several other clubs when they were looking for bosses, or was at least in a minor part of the conversation. So I'm going to tell you, I think Ipswich Town is going to hang in there this season because of that unfamiliarity, and I'll talk about why once we get out of the relegation, because they're not getting relegated. Ipswich Town is not getting relegated, even if it is me wanting to see a hearkening back to the early days of the Premier League when Ipswich was up there quite often. But listen, you're going to be surprised about some of my relegations. Here we go. Dead last for me is Nottingham Forest right now. Jota Silva, listen, Jota Silva for $7 million is a wonderful signing. That's like the first real pound for pound, understandable, this guy's going to have an impact signing. So that is kind of like, maybe it won't be 20th, maybe it won't be whatever. But aside from that, you look at Nottingham Forest and it's all these pieces cobbled together that haven't really connected that often, yet they survived relegation because three teams were much worse than them last season. They survived 4-point deduction, all that good stuff. But their biggest signing this season feels like a creative accountant problem. I like Elliot Anderson, Alex. There's nothing against Elliot Anderson, but there's no way on this green earth that Elliot Anderson is worth 41 million euros. No way. There's also no way that they were able to offload without some help. Able to offload Niakate and Oro Mangala for $55+ million to Lyon. So something feels weird there. But beyond that, Alex, they're still relying on Chris Wood up top, right? They're still relying. You've got, I like Danilo. Danilo is huge. I like Murillo. And I love the fact that they were able to bring in Nikola Milenkovic. But all around it feels like championship players for me. So that's why I've got Nottingham Forest, even if I am incredibly intrigued by their new 6'6" goalkeeper. I don't know what that converts to in meters, but it's big. And I just think Forest, it's going to be close. It's going to be tough. I also think there might be more point deductions coming down the way. Next, I'm with you. I've got Leicester. I've got Steve Cooper not being able to get it done. Their only real intriguing signing has been Caleb Okoli from Atalanta. So Leicester City needs to figure something out. Iheanacho left for free to Sevilla. Fatawu is going to be an incredibly intriguing breakout player. If he has a big season, that's fine, but he's a championship player until otherwise proven. So Leicester's got to do it, and they've got to do it without Dewsbury Hall. Interestingly enough, one of their biggest signings has been Michael Golding from Cobham, from the Chelsea Academy for $6 million in midfield, which will be intriguing if they play him. They might also come up against point deductions. And then my 18th, Alex, it is not a newly promoted side. It's Brentford. It's Brentford.
Where's that love for Igor Thiago?
I know he's injured. That's why. But you know what? Igor Thiago right now, he's injured. $33 million for him. They need more than that. They need more than that because the whole reason they brought in Thiago is because they expect to offload Ivan Toney.
Do you think he will stay, Ivan Toney?
I think right now they almost kind of have to just ignore him. If there's requests for him to leave, they just need to be like, hey, we didn't hear you. We didn't get that phone message, right? Just make sure that he stays because he can't go right now with Thiago gone. Now, with that said, Kevin Schad, I'm still high on Kevin Schad. I think he can do really, really good things. The issue is we haven't seen it yet. It's the same as like Mikkel Damsgaard. Haven't seen it there. We haven't really seen a lot of really breakthrough, like Keane Lewis Potter is another one that I thought would do a whole lot better so far. But really, it's been Brian Mbeumo and Ivan Toney. And I think this relegation scrap is not going to be like last season. I think it's going to be 5 or 6 teams really in the thick of it the whole season. So Forest, Leicester, Brentford for me. We'll see if I eat crow. I know.
If they retain Ivan Toney and they get relegated still, that's going to be very unexpected. Especially when Toney is a player that wants to show to the big clubs that he's 20 goals this season and better than a Solanke too, which is a striker that a lot of people compare him to. Interesting. So my relegation is I'm going with 20th. So Southampton, 19th, Ipswich. I go 18th, Leicester.
Wow.
17th, I'll go Nottingham Forest. I'm more hopeful with Jota Silva, Nuno Espírito Santo. And I think if a signing like Santiago Jimenez comes in this month of August for Forest, that's a huge deal. And I believe that we have those expectations. 16th might be surprising for some people. I'm going to go with Everton. Everton, for me, are a team that has been delivering. The fact that Everton has stayed in the Premier League until now, with the amounts of players that have left, like Onana, players that were majorly important to this team, like it's shocking for me. Sean Dyche has done a phenomenal job at Everton, especially with all those points deduction last season and not getting relegated. But I think they're not signing the players that they need to towards staying in a mid-table, like a 12th and an 11th. And I think they have limited resources and they have to keep Jared Braithwaite. So with that expectation, I say 16th, even though Pickford too, Premier League legend and Everton legend. Yeah. But it's not enough in my point of view. So I have them 16th. Yeah.
I mean, England starter as well, right? So I respect the 16th. I actually have Everton higher, which is going to be pretty interesting. I like the signings so far that they've made. I think most Everton fans get lulled into this sense of like, well, maybe the last 2 seasons have changed this, but I think most Everton fans previous to this expect bigger signings. But I really like the signing of Jake O'Brien from Lyon, Cork City kid. was actually in the Texter, John Texter, right? That's his name.
Yep. John Textor.
Vertical, right? He was Palace and then Lyon and I think at RWDM in Brussels or wherever that is in Belgium. So Jake O'Brien and Jesper Lidstrom, I enjoy him. He didn't work out at Napoli. Not many people did work out at Napoli last season. So it's going to be interesting to see how I think he's going to convert really well to the Everton mindset. But Jake O'Brien and Jared Branthwaite, you keep that together. That's a young center back pairing that you can build a team on. And that's why I have Everton higher than 16th. But to mine, I got 17th Ipswich Town. I believe that they'll be in the scrap, but I think that unfamiliarity with them and how they play, they're going to score a lot of goals. Very, very much unlike newly promoted teams.
Omari Hutchinson?
Omari Hutchinson was very good. I think he's got something to prove, especially it's a club record signing for $23 million from Chelsea. They're actually getting money in the door for all their little
just have doubts
accoutrement signings out there
in the Premier League of Ipswich.
Well, it might have to be Liam Delap. Right? Liam Delap or George Hurst.
That's a relegation
but Liam Delap
feeling to that. Liam Delap, which I understand potential, but promise. It's a lot of promise. Man City.
It is a lot of promise.
Chose not to stay with him.
But you compare it to 39-year-old Vardy. You compare it to, say, all you got to do is be better than 3 teams, Alex. And what I'm doing is Leif Davis, fullback, had 20-plus assists in the championship last season. And then I am taking the young upstart wonder kid manager and saying that he can actually get something done in the Premier League. He can translate. And I think that there will be a translation to it. Now, the Tractor Boys are still going to come up against it, but they have the ability, the way that they play football, they have the ability to score a whole bunch of goals in this league. It's just whether or not they can keep them out. And you're right. Definitely more signings are needed, but Liam Delap is another Manchester City academy player that is looking to cut his teeth. Omari Hutchinson is coming in with a chip on his shoulder because of Arsenal, then Chelsea offloading him. But they are going to be absolutely vital to the survival of this. And Kieran McKenna, you got to remember, was in the running to be a candidate for big top 6 clubs.
I don't think that's a reason because he still remained at Ipswich.
Well, he still remained at Ipswich, and when all is said and done, he's still going to have the ability to move on after this because I think Ipswich is going to do fine this season. They've also spent money. So 23 for Omari Hutchinson. They spent 17 or 18 for Liam Delap.
How many
they
goals
brought in Muric.
do you think Liam Delap and Omari Hutchinson are going to have in the Premier League together? Like a minimal.
Ooh.
Like a minimal tally.
Well, at 20 and 21 years old, I'm not expecting them to do all of the scoring for them. But I'll say Omari Hutchinson will have 6+ goals, and I'll say Liam Delap will have. He won't be their primary scorer.
See, and I think Ivan Toney will have more goals than both combined. And Igor Thiago, when he comes back, I still believe is another player that will have more goals than Hutchinson and Delap. It's very doubtful for me. Very doubtful.
Yeah,
17th is bold for Ipswich right now. It's bold.
It is bold. It is bold, but George Hurst, I think, has the ability to score goals in the Premier League. Al Hamadi is another one that will be up there. But yeah, there needs to be additions here. But you need to remember when some of these other clubs came up, they were working with, I wouldn't call it scraps, but they were working with unknown quantities, championship quantities. This team plays like a team.
It reminds me of
Brentford
does at Luton. Like a player that didn't go well at Man United, but is he enough for Luton to actually improve to a sense that they can stay in the Prem? I hope that Liam Delap and Omari Hutchinson, especially Omari, he's more talented, but Delap, I hope that he proves me wrong in that sense. But he just reminds me of that player that the top teams didn't want to have, and I don't know if he's enough for a team to stay in the Premier League. But let us know in the comments. Let us know your thoughts and who's going to be relegated to. We're going to answer those comments on YouTube. We appreciate it
absolutely.
A lot, people.
But the other main name to watch there is 22-year-old center back Jacob Greaves, was wanted by other Premier League clubs, brought in from Hull City. So yeah, they're relying on talent that got them here. There will be other signings, and then they're also relying on vibes, right? No, they're relying on actual structure and team and tactics, and we'll see. It tends to work in the Premier League if you've got something work. I mean, this is not Kieran McKenna coming in to do a Vincent Kompany, Burnley-like, style, where then you bring in 15 new players and you expect them all to just kind of fit in there like a glove. Now, he will be able to not figure it out, but he will be able to actually evolve in this league. So above Ipswich, I've got Southampton. Another kind of wonder kid boss, Russell Martin.
16th.
I've got Southampton in 16. Yep. Because you need to remember he's got loanees coming back in. You've got Carlos Alcaraz coming back in from Juve. You've got Paul Onuachu, the big, tall striker that scored 17 goals for Trabzonspor in the Turkish Super League last season. They've got capable players. They bought Harwood Bellis from Manchester City, who I think is a Premier League center back, very good Premier League center back. They brought in one of my favorite right backs in the Eredivisie, the Sugawara from AZ Alkmaar. Shea Charles is another Manchester City product that I think will do well this season. They've got Kamaldeen. Samuel Edozi's only 21. So remember, they raided that academy a while back. They've also got some young stars. You're going to hear probably more Samuel Amayal by the end of the season, a winger. So there's a lot of players that I think Russell Martin has them kind of moving in the right direction. The issue is I
think they're relegated.
Well, I don't know, man. I really don't. I'm not thinking this way. Brentford has been trending downward for me. And until they can get Ivan Toney off the books and start to reinvest around him, I don't think it's going to happen. So that's why I have Brentford down. And I love the piece. Like, I love Thomas Frank. I think Thomas Frank should have kind of moved on because he's been sort of in that like peripheral talk to move on. So, I would love to be wrong about Brentford, considering, I love the Danish connection. I love how they've been built. I believe you are. There's all sorts of good things to like it. Yeah.
I have them 15th, Brentford.
Do you? Okay.
Yes.
16th to 20th, I think, is going to be really close. 15th to 20th, because 15th, you ready for this? 15th, I have Fulham. I've got Fulham. Am I the only one that thinks the replacement of João Palhinha is not possible? Right?
Andre would be a good signing from Fluminense.
It would be. He's not here yet.
He's not there yet, but if it happens, just putting it out there, it would be it all. I see a lot of people, and understandably, Fulham fans, you have to be worried. You haven't signed anyone as good as Rompalinha. But Andre would be a positive signing, and I believe Emil Smith-Rowe can have more than 10 assists in the Prem and be a player that can have a positive output. Willian is underrated. Andrés Pereira is underrated. Mark Silva is underrated as a manager. He's been in England since 2017. He's been at Hull City. He's been at Everton. He's been in many teams with many different contexts, and I have them fourth. Personally, Fulham with 15th Brentford. I trust the managers a lot. Thomas Frank and Mark Silva. Both. That's why I got them there.
Yeah, no, and listen, I think they'll sign another center back, but like Tim Ream's gone. Tim Ream was injured for them quite a bit last season. They let Tosin, he just signed for Charlotte. I don't know if you saw that. He signed for, Issa Diop, who I don't really consider him that great, but they've got Bassi. I think it's Jorge Cuenca, who just came in from La Liga. Issa Diop, and that's it right now. They let Tosin walk for free to Chelsea, which is interesting. They got Sessegnon. Yeah, but they have Jedi, so they don't really need Sessegnon. Sessegnon's kind of like I would love to see Sessegnon sign and do something, but not at the expense of Jedi, who arguably is the best left back.
Imagine if it's a more offensive team. You can put Sessegnon and Jedi Robinson playing together at the left-hand side too, because Sessegnon, if he's back to confidence, he can be a winger. We've seen it.
You could be, but you have Iwobi, you have Willian still. You have who is it on the right side? It's Harry Wilson and Adama Traore. So there's a lot. There's a lot to like here. Rodrigo Muniz will probably start over Raul Jimenez, but again, the defensive core I think needs to be bolstered if Fulham wants to do something. But that's why I have him at 15th. I don't have him much higher, and you have him at what? You said 14th.
I've got 14th Fulham. So just giving a reminder to people, I've got surviving relegation barely. I've got Nottingham Forest in 17th. Everton 16th, Sean Dyche. He's the reason why they'll always remain in the Prem now. Brentford 15th, Fulham 14th, and I've got in 13th. A team with a great striker, but they have to hold on to them for them to remain in this position in my predictions.
Yeah.
That's why it's early. It's Dominic Solanke, a player that scored 19 goals, 3 assists. I love the manager Iraola. Bournemouth is my prediction to be the 13th position in the Premier League. They'll definitely remain. Because as I said, I like the manager. I like what they're doing. But Solanke, one of the best strikers in the Premier League last season, that's the priority and the big changer. If Dominic Solanke doesn't stay at Bournemouth, I could be saying that they will finish 16th to 17th, and a team like Fulham, Brentford, or Everton can finish ahead of them. That's the importance of this type of player. So let's see what happens. Tottenham's the big news.
Like Bournemouth for me is kind of like a baby Brighton, waiting to pounce at some point. If they can just get some of these things rolling and snowballing in the right direction, they do. Foley, the American ownership group, they want to spend more. I think they're upgrading the stadium, upgrading it in also like 7,000 more seats. So we'll see. I actually have them higher. I think they were undone last season. They could have been a lot higher, but they were undone last season by Andoni Iraola's system. Takes some time to understand, takes some time to actually get fit for. You had a mini injury crisis at Bournemouth last season. Not mini, big. Still, Tyler Adams, I don't think has even really worn a Cherries shirt just yet, which just breaks my heart. But I think that they have other guys coming back like Alex Scott, Roman Fevre. I think those guys can really play a big role. And they just signed Don Huijsen.
Yep.
Not from AS Roma, but he was on loan at AS Roma last season. I think he's from Juve, right? 19-year-old center back, big Spanish kid with Dutch heritage, which is really interesting. But listen, going with my relegation, I got Forest, Leicester, and Brentford. 17th, I've got Ipswich. 16th, Southampton. 15th, Fulham. 14th, Alex. We already talked about Everton, but 14th, I've got Everton because I do believe they were not given enough credit for overcoming the adversity last season. You are giving them credit, but not with 14th. I'm giving them credit. Because if you actually add back those 8 points, right, they were in the thick of it. They were basically
12,
mid-table. They were mid-table, exactly. And I like the signings. As shrewd as they've been, I like the signings they have. I don't think Dwight McNeil gets enough credit. I don't think any of these guys, they've got Jack Harrison back. I think Everton will be relatively formidable. I think 14th for me is their basement finish. I think it's their basement finish. I think it's the lowest that they could finish, while part of me wants to hedge the fact that they might have more point deductions. 13th for me, Alex, is Wolves.
I was feeling it. I was feeling it coming, yeah. Wolves. When is Wolves coming? I've got them 12.
Yeah. 12th. Okay, so we're pretty close here. And Jorgen Strand Larsen is a good player, is going to be a big... The guy that they signed... Sasha Kalajic.
Yes.
I would have loved to have seen 6'7". I would love to see him healthy, but he just keeps really having bad luck with that. So far, Pedro Neto has not left. Mateus Cunha was amazing the second half of the season. Anyone that says otherwise clearly wasn't watching Wolves.
True.
They've made some really intriguing signings, right?
Yep.
João Gomes. Rodrigo Gomes, 15 million from Braga. You've got Pedro Lima at fullback. I really like Gary O'Neill's a player's player, a player's coach, and I like what they're doing so far. It's just whether or not they can go higher than 13. So just like Everton, their basement being 14th for me, Wolves for me could be as high as like 9th or 10th if they can put things together. If Strand Larsen winds up having a formidable partnership with Cunha, if they can hold on to Pedro Neto, which is going to be really hard, it's huge. And they've got Yerson Mosquera coming back from Villarreal on loan at Villarreal, young center back who I think will do well. And Gonzalo Guedes apparently has been very good in preseason. And I know that, that can fizzle out, but he's reportedly impressed a lot of people. So hopefully he comes in with a head full of steam and he can give them a completely new weapon to go with the rest of the squad. I think this squad could be as high as 9th, but we'll see.
Well, if it happens, it's because they're in extraordinary form and O'Neill has got them playing great football. That's bold to say that, but I'm going to say that they go from 12th to 14th. I can see anything happen with this team because Wolverhampton is a young team that if Pedro Neto's injured, that is game-changing. Matheus Cunha has to be in form. I see João Gomes. He's a Brazil national team player. He's got excellent value. And Ryan Ait-Nouri on one side, Pedro Lima on the other is very interesting to watch. And Rodrigo Gomes, fantasy Premier League players, lock him up. He's going to be one of the big revelations in this Premier League season. One of my favorite players in the Portuguese league last season. Rodrigo Gomes is here to stay. So let's see. I believe Pedro Neto is closer to staying than to leaving, personally. Because if I'm a big team, with the asking price of Wolves, which must be above 50 million, I say, look, injuries have been very reoccurring. So I think he's got to have like a full season without injuries to prove to the big teams that it's possible to have a output consistently, because that's something that Jota struggles, and Jota scores more goals than Net. You can argue with me the talent level, but I believe that that's the type of thing that Pedro Neto has to show. So I've got 15th Brentford, 14th Fulham, 13th Bournemouth, 12th Wolves, 11th. I'm gonna go with Crystal Palace. No Olise, no Party, and no Eze, baby. That's gonna be big. But I believe in Oliver Glasner, and 11th is already very good with the players. And Mark Gahey could be leaving too. And I'm gonna put 10th Brighton. I believe Brighton, the structure, the intention, the talent, recruitment. Brighton is a team that's going to be at the top. They're a team deservingly to be in the top 10 of the Premier League. And I like Fabian Hurstler, manager that's going to be the youngest manager ever in the Premier League. I'm really excited to watch this. And this is something I really wanted to say about Brighton. And that's why I put Brighton 10th. With the structure that I mean, the big expenditures, you have Caicedo, Cucurella, you have Ben White, McAllister, and Bissouma. In the last 5 years, they sold these 5 players, top 5 biggest expenditures in their history. But I look at the team now. Players that are going to surpass this 5th place with 29 million. I think João Pedro is going to leave for more. Evan Ferguson will leave for more. Baleb, I think, can leave for more. Enciso, Matt Swiefer, Valentin Barco can leave for more than 29 million. There's a lot of talent. Yakuba Minte can leave one day for more than 40, 50 million. He's got a ton of potential. So I think Brighton, with this new structure, new team, new era, I'm very hopeful, and 10th place is a good start for this team. Matt Swiefer and Minte play together at Feyenoord. Pay attention to this duo. Matt Swiefer and Baleba in midfield will be very interesting. And Evan Ferguson and João Pedro, both of them, I think, will have more than 25 Premier League goals together combined, definitely. So that gives assurances. Mitoma, so many good players. So that's why they're my 10th. And Crystal Palace 11, Adam Wharton's still there. Okay, Adam Wharton will be one of the best under 23 players in the Premier League next season. It's something very positive. Shahid Riyad, good signing. I think he's underrated. Chris Richards could be very important. Joachim Anderson, underrated center back. Absolutely. I like what Crystal Palace have with Oliver Glasner. So 11th place for me too. Yeah,
and we do need to remember, right? Palace was 7-3-3 to end the season under Glasner, and a lot of that is that core that you just mentioned. But they're doing. How do you replace Michael Olise? Exactly. And Eze? Just fill our listeners in. Where is Eze going? Because I have not yet seen Tottenham. Right. Okay. And that where I expected, but I hadn't seen that news just yet. But I think, Tottenham is very close to making a couple big moves, I think. So Eze is huge. And again, how do you replace that? And that's for me exactly why I can't put Crystal Palace higher than their highest ranking ever in the Premier League, which was last season 10th. Right. So for me, my 12th up to 10th place is West Ham in 12th. And I think you've got them higher, correct? You've got them higher than 10th?
I've got 9th, West Ham. I've got them in 9th.
Okay, all right. So here's the thing. Like, the West Ham is they're definitely doing some things. Okay, Nicholas Füllkrug is a winner. He knows how to score goals in the Bundesliga. He's a great signing.
Yes.
27 million for a 31-year-old striker. Absolutely. West Ham was 9th place last season. They're the oldest team oldest team in the Premier League. Not that that, means necessarily anything. They got a whole lot younger, signing Crescencio Somerville, who literally beasted next to Jorginho Ruder in Leeds, were two of the best players in the Championship last season. It needs to 33 million to see whether or not he can transition into the Premier League. 47 million for Max Kilman. I get Max Kilman. Max Kilman was wanted by Napoli last offseason. I understand that Max Kilman is a very interesting signing. Guido Rodriguez on free. Mm-hmm. You're doing some interesting things, and yet we need to figure out how you're going to get over the hump. If all that signing only equates to them in 9th place, I don't really know if it's worth it.
Well, it is 100% worth it right now because they're one place away of getting Conference League football. European experience is always positive, and look, a team won the Conference League, and they won the Conference League. When West Ham won the Conference League, they were happy that they won a European competition for the first time. It was something historic for them. I could see it happening again with these types of players. Offensively, West Ham is exciting to watch next season. Somerville, Kudus, Paqueta, Fulkrug. Like, I'm Jared Bowen is a player to be in the English national team player if he's in form. So I think they're 9th place in my predictions. Minimal has to be top 10. Minimal top 10. So I believe West Ham will get that 9th.
Well, yeah, because like if you're gonna sack David Moyes or he's gonna step away gracefully, right? He's gonna have to do better than 8th place, right? At least. Gonna have to do better than 8th place, or he's gonna have to look for that Conference League position, because then you're really not doing much more than Moyes did, except maybe bringing new ideas. But I am 100% with you. I am going to tune into West Ham because it's Lopetegui. I'm going to tune into West Ham because of Kudus. I'm going to tune into West Ham. Somerville is a really fun player to watch. Doesn't play much defense, but whatever. Fulkrug is like, it's like they're still trying to replace Andy Carroll, right? All these years. They're just trying to find that big guy that's going to put goals in there that's not Mikel Antonio, who was converted way back when, right? So it's really, really interesting that they're like still throwing money at that top striker, and they still can't find it. Maybe Fulkrug is it, but you bought a 31-year-old too, right?
But
a 31-year-old who
can score 20 goals in the Premier League. I think he can score more goals than Solanke last season, which was 19.
Yeah, for a season or two. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see with it. So yeah, I still have West Ham underperforming. I've got them in 12th. My 11th is Bournemouth. Areola is a solid coach. I think he's one of the better coaches in this league. I think they just needed time to learn his system. Their ceiling is 9th, if I'm going to really go that far. But Dom Solanke, you're absolutely right, is kind of key to all this, because behind that you've got maybe Antoine Semenyo. He's good, but like, no, he's not Dom Solanke. I got to say, there's so many years removed from Solanke. I thought he was going to wind up being Jordan Ibe, right? Jordan Ibe was for Bournemouth. I was convinced that Solanke was not going to come good for Bournemouth early on. And man, oh man, has he proved the doubters wrong. And to be honest, it would have been nice to see him at the Euros scoring a goal or doing something, because his season last season deserved it. But I really love the young players in the back. Obviously, Don Huizen, you've got Ilya Zabarny. Milos Kerkez had an up and down season last year, needs to stay healthy. But they really do have some phenomenally talented players, and they also have a coach that can put them all together. They have Roman Fevra and Alex Scott are the two that I would watch this season, because they were injured a lot of last season, and I think that they're going to play a role. I think Alex Scott could have a similar impact. Oh gosh, who am I forgetting? Like Lewis Miley stood in for Newcastle. I think Alex Scott could be one of the big kind of homegrown midfielders this particular season. He did, right? So, Bristol City, if I'm not mistaken. So I just do have to say, it's so sad. Like, you buy Tyler Adams, you expect him to be healthy. He plays through pain for some reason at the Copa America, and now he's undergone surgery and probably isn't going to even play a role. And Tyler Adams in this setup just would have been absolutely massive for Bournemouth, and we're not going to see him that often. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope he comes back and he gets healthy. But yeah, Bournemouth in 11th. 10th for me, I'm going to say Crystal Palace at least matches last season. Does the Glasner effect wear off is the big question. But you are 100% correct, Alex. You mentioned all these names: Adam Wharton, Shadi Riyad, Chris Richards, Joaquim Anderson, Daniel Munoz, I think is a very underrated right back, one of the better signings that they've had. Jefferson Lerma, who came from Bournemouth. Mark Gahey, until he goes to Newcastle or elsewhere, is still there. Believe it or not, I think the weakest spot in the spine, Alex, is Dean Henderson. I don't think Dean Henderson has turned into the goalkeeper most people have expected him to. Yet.
Understand.
Yet. So for me, they have not replaced Olise, and they will not have replaced Eze yet. You've got the reunion of Glasner with Daichi Kamada. That's cool. We'll see if that works out. I think it will. But they need threats. Odson Edouard, maybe. Jean-Philippe Mateta was a flipping god near the end of the season. Whether or not they can do that again, that's interesting. I'll be watching Mateus França to see if he can actually paper over some of those gaps, but they need to sign an attacker like yesterday
25
if they want to go higher than
Mateus
10.
França, so that's a quarter of 100 million. So those are big numbers for a player that has to have, I'm not going to say Olise numbers, but definitely potential towards a player like that. That's why they invested in a player from Brasileirão like Mateus França. So yeah, I've got Crystal Palace 11th. I've got 10th Brighton, 9th West Ham, 8th I have Newcastle. I think Eddie Howe gets you. Yeah, I've got 8th Newcastle. I've got I like Eddie Howe, but I believe that Newcastle, to be a top 4 team, once again, they have to get a world-class manager, because you're starting to deal with Alexander Isaac, Bruno Guimarães. Tonali's going to be back with Joe Ellington. I'm very curious to see that the Tonali midfield that we were promised without the gambling issue back and in full action. So, yeah, I think they're going to get 8th place. And Eddie Howe, it's going to be possibly his last season at Newcastle in my predictions. 8th place. Yeah. Richest club in the world.
True.
So
true. I have them much higher, Alex. I think I'm giving them benefit of the doubt for the injury crisis that they underwent last season.
Okay,
I mean, they literally they were
the top.
We are. So 9th for me is Brighton.
Okay.
You already talked about it. Fabian Hertzler, you already talked about the midfield partnership. I think that's going to be crucial. Baleba, Carlos Baleba, even De Serbi on his way out said Baleba could be one of the best midfielders in the Premier League given the time. But you pair him with Mats Wiefer, it's going to be really interesting. I think Valentin Barco. So you're going to have center mids are crucial to Hertzler's system. The fullbacks are also crucial to Hertzler's system, and Barco is going to be a stud on that left side. And then that front, I mean, as you said, Matoma back from injury. Yankuba Minte, big signing. Wasn't really expecting it. Feels a little weird. Creative accounting. Newcastle needed to offload some stuff. But why I don't have them higher than 9th is because they're offloading some of their pressure valves, like Pascal Gross, right? And their defense, to me, they haven't upgraded their defense. It's Lewis Dunk, great. It's Jean-Paul Van Heck. It's Igor, but they need a really big presence at center back if they want to go higher than 9th place. And I would love, as you mentioned, to see the resurgence of Evan Ferguson. But they also had an issue with injuries last season. And I think you might even see a new entry to the system. I think Matt O'Reilly is on Brighton's thing, right on their short list right now. So 8th place.
Brentford too.
Man, you had Newcastle.
Yeah.
Chelsea has a good, decent 11. Once you crack that 11, you've got unproven Pokemon characters. I mean, you've got people that they've just been collecting. He's collecting them left and right.
Players in the squad now. They're gonna tone down 100%. I don't believe they're gonna start the Premier League season with 45 players. But
what do they need? What do they need, and who are they signing? What do they need, and who are they signing?
They have to make a team surrounding Cole Palmer in the best way. I think Nkunku coming back from injury is a positive. Osimhen, I think, is not something can happen still. You don't think Osimhen goes to Chelsea?
No, he's not, because apparently they're going to sign Samu Omarodian for 30 million. And you're basically just pairing a guy that needs help with finishing with another guy that needs help with finishing. With that said, Nico Jackson scored a bunch of goals last season.
I hope because of him signed, they don't stop not to get Osimhen. Hopefully. Because imagine the salaries that Samu's getting. like Cole Palmer, he's not getting more than 100K a week. So I do believe the salary situation may be something more positive, but I'd be sad to think that signing the new Atletico striker would mean that Osimhen wouldn't go to Chelsea. And I think it's not ambitious, especially when you sell Conor Gallagher. So 10th Brighton, 9th West Ham. I've got 8th Newcastle. 7th, I've got Chelsea. 6th, I've got Man United. And 5th, I got Aston Villa. I think Champions League football is going to affect this team a lot. I like Monchi. I like Unai Emery. I don't like the fact that Diaby left. I think he's a great player. Okay, 60 million. You shouldn't refuse, and it was a good call. But I'm still doubtful towards the amount of goals. Watkins, he's a good striker, but you need more wingers. He needs more help towards being a team in the top 4 and playing Champions League football. Aston Villa is going to be playing 8 games in the Champions League, guaranteed. And I think 5th place with that competition is an awesome season for Aston Villa fans that are having a debut in the Champions League since the 1980s. So that's amazing. And Unai Emery, he's a manager that can make proper damage with a lot of teams that won't want to face Aston Villa in the Champions League. La Liga teams, Serie A teams. So, and I believe they'll do better than Newcastle did in the Champions League. I know they were in the group of death, Newcastle, but this Aston Villa team, Onana, you got proper players right there. I'm hopeful.
Yeah. Well, okay. I think if you're a Villa fan, I have them in 6th. If you're a Villa fan and you're balancing Champions League football with the Premier League for the first time and you finish in 5th or 6th this season, you almost kind of need to take that. That's wonderful. That's great if you can do that while also bringing in new, younger team players that could propel you forward to making this a sustainable effort instead of just some flash in the pan type of situation. So I have Villa in 6. I think you putting him in 5th is pretty bold actually. Although some people have him as high as 3rd. But 8th for me, Chelsea, already said it. I don't appreciate their transfer policy. I think it's absolutely stupid now. I think it's like 5-year-olds running the damn thing, like just collecting cards left and right. And listen, I've already said it. Like none of what they've already brought in, none of their first team 11 right now can get injured because none of what they brought in will help them right now. Kiernan, Dewsbury Hall, Philip Jorgensen. Philip Jorgensen is not better than Robert Sanchez, is not better than Petrovic was, is not better than even Kepa, probably, right? And they have to offload 1 or 2 of those guys in the very near future. I think Tosin comes in and kind of helps them in terms of cover, but I think their defense is not good. They got rid of Thiago Silva. He's gone. Who is their calming effect right now? It needs to be Reece James. Wesley Fofana, who's coming off of 2 major injuries in the last 3-4 seasons. You've got Reece James coming off of 2 major injuries in the last several seasons. You've got Levi Colville, who is going to be thrown into it, even though he's coming off of an injury as well. And I just, that defense needs to be improved, and they've already thrown $1 billion and somehow not improved the defense. Now, with that said, their midfield and their strike force, assuming they all stay healthy, should still get them 8th is their basement, in my opinion. They're not going lower than 8th, and I have them at their basement. So 7th place for me, you're going to laugh, I think, at this. Manchester United.
You got 7th. I've got them 6th.
Yep. So, okay. Well, that's not that. Then it's not that crazy. So I've got Chelsea 8th, Manchester United 7th, and I've got Aston Villa 6th.
Let me ask you this,
it's an improvement
with that. With Man United finishing, you got 7th in your predictions, and in mine finishing 6th. Do you think Erik ten Hag stays until the end of the season, or will he be replaced by Ruud van Nistelrooy?
Yeah. Replaced by Ruud van Nistelrooy. Just because I want to see that. He's
already there.
Yeah, I know. Just because I want to actually see him ascend to a head coaching position. He was good at PSV. I don't think he should if he finished 7th. I mean, what are the actual improvements that you're expecting? And that's going to come from Ratcliffe. It's going to come from Ineos. It's going to come from, setting those actual goal posts and exceeding them. And if 7th place is what you're accepting while he builds the culture or whatever the hell he's doing there, by all means. But I think they need signings yesterday, and they haven't gone and gotten them. I know De Ligt might be coming. I know he might be going full Dutch on this thing. Denzel Dumfries might be coming. Those are decent signings, but they needed to happen yesterday, right? And it's whether or not Xerxes can come in for 40 million. Can Garnacho be more consistently brilliant? He's brilliant. Don't get me wrong, but can he be more consistently brilliant to
Bretson,
those periods of continuity that Rashford
let
gave
me
to them?
enumerate the players. Do you think any of these Man United players will score more than 15 Premier League goals? Marcus Rashford? Doubt.
I'd like to see it. No, it is a doubt.
Anthony?
It is a doubt. No.
Garnacho?
No.
Rasmus Winter-Højlund? He has to. He's a striker. He has to come back from injury and score those goals.
He has to. He didn't do it at Atalanta, so...
Joshua Zirkzee, doubtful too. Hopefully, if he plays enough game time and he shows good signs. So there's no guarantees in Man United still for a striker to score more than, or a forward to score more than 15 goals. It's brutal.
I mean, Alex, their best. Yeah, I know. And beyond Lenny Yoro, who we all agreed at 62 million, it's steep, but it's a hell of a signing for the future. Yep. Beyond that, believe it or not, their best signing this summer has been pulling away powerful striker, 16-year-old striker, Chido Obi Martin from Arsenal. And like, who the hell knows? You give him time under Van Nistelrooy, you give him some one-on-one, some love. You could actually see him make his debut this season for them. And I think that is, I know, one of the goalposts for Ten Hag, right? It is like promote the youth. And I doubt that they went to Chido Obi and said, hey, come on over from Arsenal, right? Come on over and we'll make you sit on the bench for 3 years and then we'll play you. No, I think a lot of it was he's going to see Premier League time this season. And for those that don't know him, go look him up because he's fast, he's strong, he's technical. Yes, he's 16, but like this kid is a hell of a talent. But I also see you're going to see Harry Amos come in.
Yes, left back.
Harry Amos at left back. So I do think even if it's 7th place, I think that the reason why they might wind up keeping Ten Hag around is because maybe they had Ethan Collier break out in the midfield and they had Harry Amos break out at left back, and you've got Chido Obi scoring his first goal. And and Mainu having a wonderful season, which I absolutely expect. I think he's going to take on leadership qualities, which he shouldn't have to at his age, but he's going to take on leadership qualities at Manchester United this season because of what I think is going to be a 7th place finish.
With the whole situation of Man United, Erik Ten Hag, I think Erik Ten Hag staying for the decision of Sir Jim Ratcliffe of retaining Erik Ten Hag is a smart decision because it gives time for him to restructure the team with the outings of players that are not needed anymore, like a Bissaka, like a McTominay, like a Donny van de Beek, like an Anthony Martial, and the salary structure is starting to be fixed. Don't sleep on Omar Berrada and Erik Ten Hag, Ruud van Nistelrooy being there, succeeded at PSV in the past, being a head coach. There's experience, there's knowledge, and time to change. So Man United fans, be hyped for the after Erik Ten Hag, because this is something that's just cooking. Something that's just cooking. So 7th, Chelsea. 6th, Man United. 5th, I got Aston Villa. I believe a lot in Unai Emery for this season with Champions League Football 2. Exciting team. Wow. 4th place is going to be bold for some people, but come on, Ange Postecoglou. 4th, Tottenham. I believe Tottenham will get Champions League football next season. There's a real boss. There's a real boss feeling with Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham. He demands what the players need to do, and I'm liking to see the trust the youth policy. Many people are pointing fingers at Daniel Levy saying, all these players are leaving, like Perisic, Dyer, Lloris, Emerson Royal, now Tanganga, Højbjerg, and Ndombele. We're not replacing them with anyone. I disagree. You see Archie
It's
Gray.
Evolution.
You see Lucas Bergvall. Exactly. You see Mickey Moore now getting an extension. A 17-year-old next Sunday. Happy birthday to one of the biggest talents in England football right now. You got to invest in these types of players. And they believe in Ange Postecoglou. Culture too is changing at this club. This is something that Tottenham, I think English fans, they realize that Tottenham is a big club, but worldwide, for Korea, Tottenham is the biggest club, okay? If you see the amount of Korean fans they have. 20 million. Oh, no, I got here the number. 20% of South Korea are Tottenham fans. That equates to 12 million people. Heung-min Son affected. Right now, currently, he's the 8th player with most appearances in Tottenham history with 408. Will he have 54 appearances to become a top 4 player in Tottenham history in terms of appearances? I believe that will be the case. We're talking about a legend that is going to be retiring at Tottenham one day, maybe, and that is beautiful to see. But he's got to win trophies. And Ange Postecoglou has the main players of this locker room, like Romero, Heung-min Son. He's got their trust, and I'm going to trust in the boss to get it top 4. That is already good for Tottenham next season. So,
well, I mean, I'll start where you are.
Did I mention Udogie?
Yeah.
Joking.
You didn't. But I mean,
Mickey van de Ven, Udogie, Romero, like Vicarius a good keeper. Like their defense is really good. And Lo Celso wasn't that guy. Højbjerg wasn't that guy. Bergval wants to grab the moments. I get that feeling. So Tottenham fans, be excited for what's to come. A striker's coming, more options are coming, and players that want to win at your club are coming. That's something that needs to be stated.
I'm with you. I have them 4th as well. So I can start backwards there, but like Cuti Romero, 26 years old, Mickey van de Ven, 23, Radu Dragusin, 22. Luka Vuskovic and Ashley Phillips coming down the pike at 17 and 19, respectively. Udogie on the wings. Pedro Porro is only 24, and I think he's ready for another big season. And there's your replacement of Emerson Royale, right, if needed. I think they have to offload Bentancur at some point because he doesn't fit in. Lo Celso needs to be offloaded as well, and they do need somebody in that midfield, right, which we know that they're kind of looking at. They also need a striker.
But they got
but they're going to have to rely on,
which is
they
really
do.
good.
They have Pop Matar Sarr. Exactly. And Archie Gray, we didn't even talk about, who can play midfield. His best position was at one point midfield, but he can also play right back. True. Hell, he can even fill in at center back if needed. Keep James Maddison healthy last season. We're talking about a much higher Spurs, in my opinion. On top of Son, on top of, okay, I get people have issues with Richarlison and have issues with Timo Werner, but until they actually... Right, until they get new strikers in, these guys can actually platoon and they'll score some goals. And then you've got, beyond that, the academy route of Tyrese Hall. You've got Mikey Moore, as you just mentioned. Lancashire has been scoring goals for them. Exactly. So there's a lot, I think, to like, but more importantly, there's just that vibe around it that, yes, Big Ange just manages this very differently than the like if Antonio Conte is doom scrolling all the time, if he's like Mr. Doom Scroller in how he approaches like his management, right, of teams, I feel like Big Ange is like, I don't know, watching cat videos, right? Exciting little cat videos, like happy cat videos, even though he is very much not a teddy bear. Like this guy will actually rip your throat out if you want him to, but he has a plan. He also has a culture that it seems has been built into Spurs. And I just like this setup. And I do. It's a wonderful blend of youth and mid to like 30-year-olds. And by the way, they're also tapping into that Korean market more, signing one of the more promising, Min Hyuk Young, signing him, but he won't be here until next season, and
you'll see Min Jae Kim will go to Tottenham in the near future. I expect that to happen. You can see it. And it's the effect.
Yeah. And he'll play well there. He'll absolutely play well there. So I have them in 4th. So going backwards from there for me, I have Newcastle 5th, Alex. Now, they need to sign. This is one of the only ones where
Newcastle
I took the liberties.
Ahead of Chelsea, Man United. Oh,
I do because their injury crisis last season affected them immensely. And even if it wasn't the biggest injury crisis, and there were a lot of injury crises all across the board in the Premier League, Brighton had one, United had one, Chelsea had one, right? Maybe that's why Chelsea is signing everyone left and right. But Newcastle, for me, you've got really insanely high level, like top 3, could play in any top 3 club players up and down the list, right? It's just keeping them healthy.
Like, for example, Alexander Isak's one of the best under 25 strikers in the world of football. In the Premier League, 52 games, 31 goals, 4 assists. Anthony Gordon last season, 11 goals, 10 assists. They do have the talents to play in the top 3. But my big doubt is Eddie Howe. Is he a world-class manager to compete against a better Tottenham, a better, slightly better Man United, better Aston Villa? I've got doubts. I've got big doubts.
I'm with you, but I'm snapping back to, I think with Nick Pope fully healthy, I think with Dan Burn maybe not being a left back and being more of a center back, giving the reins to Lewis Hall on the left back, who they bought from Chelsea permanently, and Livramento on the right, even with Kieran Trippier being able to do what he needs to do from a leadership perspective. I'm sure he'll obviously get plenty of time. But I feel they're like if Sven Botman had been if he had been injury free the last 2 seasons, we really wouldn't even be having this conversation with them in 5th place. We'd be expecting it, right? But they are one center back away. They are Mark Gahey away, I think, from really shoring that up. And I do think that they need somebody to paper over the cracks of when Callum Wilson is out injured, which is like often.
Yep.
It's often, right? So they do need another goal scorer to kind of take the load off of Alexander Isak. Joe Linton, though, is looking good. Tonali coming back. So 5th place for me is kind of a ceiling expectation. 6th or 5th for me, Newcastle, but 5th. And then Villa I had in 6th place, which we talked about previously. But I think they're going to be set up for a longer run in the top 6 than I think we're giving them credit for, based on moves made this offseason.
The fight of top 3 to the 3rd place to the 19th place in the Premier League, I think it's going to be carnage. I think all the teams are very leveled, from an Aston Villa to a Brighton that, who knows if a Baleba, Bart Verbruggen, Evan Ferguson, Valentin Barco are considered at the end of next season as top players in the Premier League. That can happen.
Right.
Jakub Aminte. So there's big variables that can happen. But come on, United. You got to get top 4 for Erik ten Hag. Like, it's his 3rd season. And if that's not the case, people will be pointing fingers, because the expectancy is not for greatness immediately, but top 4 for Man United should be amenable, because they're going to sign even more players. So 3rd place, well, I want to say in the predictions until now, in my Premier League predictions, my 3rd place is Liverpool, but they could win the Premier League, people, okay? Honestly.
Really?
For me, Liverpool, Arne Slot, Liverpool, it can go right or it can go from 1st to 3rd place. I believe that's the case. I don't believe Liverpool is going to lose their Champions League spot without Arne Slot. I believe he's a really good manager, especially with what we've seen with Feyenoord always being at the top in European competitions too. Want to mention that developing Santiago Gimenez, Mats Wiefer, Arsens, I appreciated watching him at Benfica. A lot of talents improved with Arne Slot, and this 100%. Is an underrated fact, okay, people? When I see people talk about Liverpool next season not putting in the top 4, I have to remind you, people, that Liverpool have an historic squad in their ranks with Mo Salah there, Alisson there, Virgil van Dijk there, Trent there, Robertson there. These are players that expect minimal top 4, 100%. This is a team that won for Liverpool their first title in 30 years. It's the team that in Premier League history had the most wins in a campaign with 32, and a team that had the most home wins in a Premier League season record, 18. It's a team that has achieved greatness. Arne Slot can poke the bear once again, and Darwin Núñez being a better player. Center defensive mid has to be signed if they're going to get this Premier League title. Alan Varela, I like that name. And Zubimendi, top players that can have that role with McAllister and Dominic Szoboszlai. And Gakpo, that can be more than 15 goals in the Premier League type of strikers too. We've seen it for the Dutch national team. So there's many good variables that can make them a Premier League winning team. But minimal expectations in my predictions is 3rd place. I think it makes sense for all the reasons I've enlisted. So these are the
plays. We need to remember that PSV had to have a historic season to beat Arne Slot's Feyenoord last season. And Arne Slot does improve pretty much every player he comes in contact with. I mean, he made Santiago Gimenez a amazing striker that likely will get his move somewhere at some point in the very near future. I think he could literally unleash a sleeping giant in Darwin Núñez.
Exactly.
I honestly do. I believe that he can. I also think you're going to see the squad, the guys bubbling underneath the surface. The guys bubbling underneath the surface, the depth players, right? Fabio Carvalho has looked phenomenal under Arne Slot early on. Arne Slot has been impressed with him. Now, that's not a guy that's going to go in and take over for anyone just yet in the starting 11. No way. What I'm talking about is depth within the roster.
True.
And that, for them, is a missing point. Stefan Bajcetic, we haven't even talked about him in the midfield, back from injury. I think he's going to cook under Arne Slot. And yes, but I do believe that they need to shore up that midfield. But I think Arne Slot is going to improve 2 guys, as you've already mentioned. One of them immensely, and that's going to be Cody Gakpo, and it's going to be Darwin Núñez, and those are the two guys beyond the Mo Salahs who you expect to be there, beyond the Robertsons and the Alexander Arnolds and the Van Dijks and McAllisters that you expect to be there. Those are the two guys that could take Liverpool from third to first. With that said, I have them in third right now, like you said, until they get that midfield, until they get a little more depth. But you're absolutely right. 14 points separated the top three from the back
and
17
this is the thing that
of the 20.
With Liverpool that needs to be stated is you look at this Liverpool team, and when you look at a Man United, a Chelsea, a Newcastle, big difference for me is the 15 goal involvements type players they can have. Szoboszlai, Gakpo, Luis Diaz, Mo Salah, Darwin Núñez, all these, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, they could have more than 15 goal involvements in the Premier League. They've showed McAllister, who knows?
Yeah.
So there's too many players here that will have a big importance, and without this slot, I believe they can improve or have the same level that we've seen with the best time with Jurgen Klopp. So be hopeful, Liverpool fans, because I believe this was a really good appointment. So yes, fifth Aston Villa, fourth Tottenham, third Liverpool, second, forever being runners up. Oh my days, Mikel Arteta, Arsenal in second. It's going to be the third year in a row that they're going to be runners up. I believe they're going to have the best defense in the Premier League with Raya, Calafiore, Gabriel Saliba, Ben White, great players, but the issue is going to prevail. The number 9 issue. If I'm saying of Darwin Núñez, Gakpo scoring goals, Arsenal need more of a goal scorer than a Trossard, than a Kai Havertz. They need someone guarantees 25 goals a season. Alvarez is not going there. He's now in Atletico de Madrid. Video coming on the YouTube page, okay? And check out our shorts. Just like all our shorts if you want to help your FC Wonderkid. Short of Atletico is coming. But Arsenal, second place in my predictions. Number 9 issue prevails. Even Eddie Nketiah is going to be leaving, as a lot of people are saying. UCL experience is going to be positive for them, but an improved midfield, an improved defense Arsenal's going to have, but it's not going to be enough to go against Arsenal and against City. So, and another point or two that I want to ask you too, Breton, that it is, if Arne Slot wins the Premier League, or finishes ahead of Arsenal with Mikel Arteta, will Arsenal fans start pointing fingers at Arteta saying he should be sacked maybe?
Third place, no. Third place, no. Second place again. Oh, but if like Liverpool instead of Pep beats
wins.
him, I still don't think so. Mikel Arteta has a cultural stranglehold in a good way. I still think it's in a very positive way at Arsenal. I think even if he finishes third, I don't think Arteta's going anywhere.
Understandable.
No, I think, understandably. And I think what he's done is he's built that club up incrementally over time. This isn't like let's spend 300 million. This isn't Todd Bowley. They spent, don't get me wrong, Arsenal has spent. But he's done it very incrementally. He's done it very measured in saying these are the goals that I have. And I think that he has also secured his place as the figurehead of Arsenal for years to come.
How does Mikel Arteta get sacked from Arsenal? It can't be impossible. Nothing is impossible. If he doesn't get top 4, he's sacked. Because Arsenal is a big team regardless. And Premier League title is something that they have to have the ambition of.
I think this day and age, it would take with Arteta, it would take a big, monumental underperformance. Aubameyang's all over the place, like that. It would take the loss. It would take the loss of his squad. It would take the loss of the squad.
Edu and Arteta have a teamwork to improve the squad over the years, over these 4 years. But if no titles are coming, and the FA Cup is the title you won with Aubameyang, Arsenal fans are going to start to be saying, like, come on, we need a title. We need to see a Premier League title.
I know. I mean, Spurs have been saying that for years, and they were your perennial second placers for a small moment in time.
If you finish 6th, 7th, that I don't believe will be the case, that's enough for Arsenal to sack Arteta at the end of the season.
But listen, this defense for me is hands down the best in the league.
I agree.
Easily. Calafiore, the additions of that, I mean, even if you count Marino is not in just yet, but if you count Jurrien Timber coming back, that's like a new signing all over again. Hopefully he doesn't get injured again. But like you're plastering over really kind of glaring depth issues. Calafiori can line up on the left. Timber can line up on the left. Zinchenko's still there.
Imagine if Arsenal has Martin Odegaard or Bukayo Saka injured. Are they getting top 4 even?
No, I agree. And that's the thing is like, I'm looking at this. There's no combination of the current front three where I could realistically say that they're going to win the Premier League this season. Saka, Martinelli, Havertz. No. Saka, Jesus, Trossard. No. Martinelli, Jesus, Saka. No. None of these are going to win you the Premier League. So they do need that striker, and they need to make that. They should have literally had that target secured
100%.
by now. And with that, like, could you have brought in Dom Solanke? Or could you have brought in, Spurs, I know, like Solanke a lot. They could have gotten Ivan Toney. I mean, previously, how many times has the guy wanted out? Just pay the damn fee. But yeah. But here's the other weird thing. And Gyökeres. But here's the other weird thing that's been happening is they're kind of slow rolling. And I get it. There's this tug at the heartstrings of getting the right price for Emile Smith-Rowe, getting the right price for Eddie Nketiah or for Reece Nelson.
Yeah.
But if you can get even 80 or 75% of your max price, like, stop playing hardball. Let these kids go play football elsewhere instead of being randomly used, rarely used squad players. Fund that damn striker. Bring him in the door. Give Arteta what he needs. And Arteta's a part of this. Edu, I know, is a part of this, or the biggest part of this. But, like, Arsenal should have already had that striker signing in, and they don't yet. And that's the biggest thing. Right now that's keeping me from saying, like, Manchester City, listen, until somebody proves otherwise, I can't predict that 4-time in a row champions Manchester City, that this is the year they're going to be knocked off the podium. It might be bold to do so, but I think everyone's getting a little too bold by saying this is Arsenal's year. It's not just yet. It is Manchester City's year until until literally match week 38. I'm sorry.
True.
It's not happening until then, and I will not predict otherwise, even if somebody winds up being right out there. And with that, like, I am going to say Manchester City, I'm going to say that there's a little too much chaos in that front attack, that it doesn't feel as measured. Now, don't get me wrong. I love to see
be amazing with Guardiola.
Right, but Savio, Oscar Bob, with Savinho, we already said Savio, I'm sorry, with Jeremy Doku. For me, it's a little too much chaos.
Bernard Silva will be starting at the right wing. I don't believe that's good. I think one side. Look, if we look at Man City starting 11 in the first game, Haaland up front, then you see Doku or Doku at the left. You see Bernard Silva at the right. You see Phil Foden and Kevin De Bruyne in the middle behind Rodri. That's a great team. Or Jack Grealish at left wing, or Oscar Bob at left wing. My only doubt is if Erling Haaland gets injured, who's going to be the striker? Right. I see a lot of pundits in Sky Sports talking about the great attack of Man City, the great of Pep Guardiola. That yes, on the wings we see it for sure. But if Haaland gets injured, they need to sign another striker, in my opinion. Okay, and getting 75 million immediate for Julian Alvarez plus 20 million in add-ons is an insanely good deal for a player that they signed for 14 million. Shows the greatness of the management of Man City, selling a Cole Palmer in the past, selling a Carlos Borges, a James Trafford, getting more than 200 million in sales of of players that they've recruited is insane for me. Sane, he left at a high. Gabriel Jesus, he left at a high. And Savio is going to be a big player for Man City next season. Guaranteed to you guys. Because if Savio is going to start for Brazil, that I believe that's his ambition, being coached by the best manager in the world. He had 9 goals and 10 assists in Girona. Historic Girona season. First time getting Champions League football. Savio was a big deal for that. And if he starts one day for Brazil, is being a top player for Man City, that can happen. He can have enough efficiency for being a player to make a difference in the Premier League. So first place, fifth place, Aston Villa. Fourth, Tottenham. Third, Liverpool. But I think Liverpool can even win the Prem, maybe. Let's go out of this club.
Wow.
Second, Arsenal. Wow. And first, Man City. But Darwin Núñez, go bold against Erling Haaland. But imagine if there's a golden boot race. Imagine.
Yeah, I think he is going to be in the running. I'm with you, which is so weird. Believe it or not, aside from I think I have Newcastle 5th. You have them 8th, if I'm not mistaken.
So
Right.
top 10.
I think
it's better if we do top 10.
Yeah,
at the end.
but my top 5, my top 5 is Newcastle. Although I think they're signing a couple signings away. I think that those signings I think they've got a very good core. I think their defense is going to snap back this season, as long as they don't get injured again, right? But Newcastle 5th, Spurs 4th. You get Spurs. You tell me if that moves them into the upper echelon of the top 3 if they get Solanke or they get a striker that they've been looking at. But 3rd, I'm with you, Liverpool. 2nd, Arsenal, and 1st, Manchester City. And tell me what is keeping Pep Guardiola from saying, okay, we just brought in 75 from Julian Alvarez, calling up Real Madrid and saying we want Rodrigo.
Ooh, that'd be a very interesting deal. And Rodrigo, look, how would he say no to a team that's gonna win for the first time in Premier League history 5 in a row?
Yeah.
But how will he say no? He's a Real Madrid player. I'm being silly.
He's a Real Madrid player.
He's a Real Madrid
but also,
player.
Alex,
How is he saying no? He's gonna start with Mbappe, Vini. Come on, Rodrigo, stay at Real. I'm not gonna be this guy saying Arsenal's better, Saka's better than Rodrigo. That is cap. That is not true. Yeah. And time will tell. English fans will know. And Lamine Yamal too. I've said it.
Yeah. Well, the other little sidebar I got to throw out there. What the heck did Diego Simeone do this offseason to get Atletico Madrid to already part with 120 million euros for Lenormand, for who else? Conor Gallagher and Julian Alvarez.
Yeah, and Sorloth.
What the heck? Holy
and
crap!
Felix
that is a lot of money spent.
So
yeah,
you have a new Atletico. La Liga is going to be very interesting to watch. It's the we're going to do La Liga predictions like this video, okay? Let's have a goal of 100 likes. Because if you're listening until now, 1 hour and 10 has passed, people, okay? So we went bold with these predictions. We went in depth with many of our opinions, okay? So please let us know your predictions of the Premier League and comment La Liga predictions on YouTube. That's to say that you want to see our La Liga predictions this week with the podcast, people. We will go bold with those ones too because, league predictions is what we love to see. Finishing off, so my top 10 Premier League predictions. I have 10th Brighton, 9th West Ham, 8th Newcastle. I've got 7th Chelsea, 6th Man United, 5th Aston Villa, 4th Tottenham. And Jebal go bold with Lucas Bergvall, Mickey Moore, all these youngsters, Archie Gray. 3rd Liverpool with Arne Slot, 2nd Arsenal, and Man City making the historic achievement of 5-peating, winning 5 in a row, with Phil Foden having more Premier League titles than many Premier League teams at the age of 20. Insane.
But Arsenal, Liverpool, please make sure it doesn't happen. I think we're both in agreement.
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know.
But
I'd like
for
to
that
see
to
a different
happen, Arsenal needs to sign a striker, and Liverpool has to sign a CDM. That's a guarantee.
Mid.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. All right. My top 10 Premier League for the 2024-2025 season. 10th, Crystal Palace repeats as 10th place. Best all-time finish for them. 9th, Brighton, though I think that's their basement. I think they could go much higher. 8th, Chelsea. I don't believe in the transfer policy. I also don't believe they're all going to stay healthy again. Or not again. Ever, I should say. I hope otherwise, though. 7th, Manchester United. Same type of thing applies. 6th place, Aston Villa. 5th, Newcastle. Reverse. I think they've got it. I think their defense is going to be one of the better ones in the league. Not better than Arsenal's, not better than City's, but up there. 4th, Spurs. Love what they're cooking. Liked it last year. Think they can avoid that mid-season, and maybe they can push a little bit higher, but higher would be top 3 for them. But that's where Liverpool, 3rd, Arsenal, 2nd, Manchester City lie. Those top 3 are the cream of the crop still until proven otherwise. It showed it last season with a 14-point gap between top 3 and the rest. I think you're going to see a similar thing this season. It might even whittle down to top 2. All these things are open to interpretation, obviously. But man, this top 3 it's going to be a rat race again. I think it's going to be close.
Let us know your thoughts down below for the Premier League predictions, La Liga predictions. Comment down below on YouTube if you want to see it. Thank you for listening until now, and thank you for going bold, people.